Welcome to History According to Bob on YouTube for a little bit of an enhanced podcast. Now, today's enhanced podcast is opening a Cold War era ration can. Now, I've had, over the years, I still have two of them, but I've had three of them. Two of them silver, which was your standard issue, and then one that was kind of a gold color, which was a higher calorie intake, if you will. And I decided after all the years of having these things, they're all from 1961 and 62, that it would be neat to see what they were like on the inside. And so I endeavored to open one and to see what was in there. Of course, going into a fallout shelter, having lived across the street from one during the coldest era of the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, I was always reassured that there would be plenty of rations right there, and all we had to do was scamper across the street to the basement of the elementary school, and we would be okay. Of course, now that I know what was actually in there, they put 17.5-gallon drums to put water in, but the suggestion was that you don't fill them up unless there's a crisis. So if you got attacked accidentally or by surprise, you would run into a place that didn't have any water. And of course, the amount of rations you're going to get vary significantly. The government really was not into making this a worthwhile situation. It was a minimum. In reality, I actually have in my possession the basic course for emergency mass feeding, and they expect people to bring stuff with them, particularly with people who have babies. They expect them to bring formula. But having grown up in that era, I was never informed of that. We just assumed you'd get to the shelter and all would be taken care of, and that's going to be a mess. Well, here I am standing on my back porch. I figured to get as much oxygen as I possibly could, because now these are all sealed. You open them, you see the can opener there on the table, and put the respirator mask on. I was pretty sure it wasn't going to have an alien that would come out of it, but it opened pretty much like a can of ham, for all that matter. But I expected that, who knows what would be in there. Would it be all mush? Would it be moldy? But then again, once I opened it and saw what was in there, these are sealed, airtight containers, so everything should have been in pretty good shape. And this is what happened when I removed the lid. It's like opening a can of Ritz crackers. They were in their wax packages, nice and neat, looked perfect. Now, I have not eaten one. I really think you could. They would be unbelievably stale. I did this about 4 years ago, so they were only 40-some years old at this particular point. To some extent, I was a little bit disappointed because I was hoping this would be really disgusting, but it wasn't. So I then took them all out, and you'll notice that the can, Civil Defense All-Purpose Survival Biscuits, and I swear this material, the concoction that's in it, is the same that they served as a hardtack in the Civil War and the British used in their ship biscuits, but they're a little bit bigger than the kind of wafer that you would normally get today, and that's the whole group stacked up. Now, some of those packages did kind of disintegrate, at least the wax paper did. Here's a nice close-up of one of the crackers. So it's about 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. And they're about twice the thickness of a regular Ritz crackers. The government claims that this has approximately 20 calories per biscuit. Okay? So you get 20 calories per biscuit. There we go. That's a nice look at the single biscuit in relationship to one of the containers and the box itself. Now this is a little different, because what this is showing you is your daily ration when it comes to eating in a fallout shelter. The daily ration was 3 meals of 250 calories each. So what you see in each of those stacks is 12 to 13 biscuits. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Every day for 14 days because they expected you to be in there for 14 days. And I calculated from the amount of biscuits that were in this can that, quite frankly, that one can was one person's rations for the entire 2-week period of time. Now, the manual that says emergency mass feeding suggests that you eat at the same time every day, that you make kind of a little ritual about it, and do all kinds of other things. But that's what you're going to eat. Now, they also claim that if the people had children or infants, they didn't bring any formula, well, that you could grind these up and mix them with water, but they would give the infant 1,000 calories a day, so they would get an extra pile of them and make a gruel. I would shudder to think how you'd survive on that. Now, what you see here is almost one meal. Now, it's 1 meal worth of biscuits. There's some emergency U.S. Aqua pure drinking water. Unfortunately, that can is too big for one meal. You were given 5 cups of water a day. 5 times a day you were given water, and that cup that you were given, the styrofoam cup, which you were supposed to put your name on so you would keep it, you would get 6 ounces each of the 5 times they gave you water. So one would assume that you drank 6 ounces of water with those biscuits, and then you did that 3 times, and then you have 2 other times a day you could have a little shot of water to get you through. That's 30 ounces of water a day. Now, that can, I think, has 20 ounces in it at this point, so that's almost that's 2/3 of a day's worth of water. So you can imagine those 3 sets of biscuits and that can and a half of water, and that's your rations. That's 750 calories a day. You're going to lose probably a pound a day doing nothing, just sitting around. And the funny thing about the mass emergency feeding, it's an instructor's guide. You can actually teach yourself how to do this, put out by the Department of the Defense and the American Red Cross. There's nothing in it about the psychological aspect of having all these people in a place that more than likely doesn't have any electricity or anything else, and everybody's freaking out. So I thought you'd enjoy seeing one of these cans and how it was opened. And like I said, I have 2 of these that are completely unopened at this point. Now, I hope that you come by my website, summahistorica.com or historyaccordingtobob.com. And there are some Cold War podcasts that have been done that are in the archives. And I'm doing a whole series, usually on Saturdays. But one of the things that I have is in the CD section. If you go to the website, there's on the banner it says CDs, and those are discs of shows. So there's all kinds of different topics that I have that are for sale. I have one on the Cold War. Now, in that CD, there are some podcasts, but most of it are PDF files of all of these pamphlets and books that I have put out by the government on. It has this emergency feeding thing, which is, I don't know, 25 or 30 pages long. There's Fallout on the Farm. There's a whole bunch of these pamphlets from the era that you can then, I've scanned them in color so that you can reproduce them and use them in class or whatever. But the other thing is, I have so many of these biscuits, I made complete sets for my classes that I teach when I do the Cold War. And I gave some to some of the other professors, but I have a bunch left. So everybody who buys a CD on the Cold War, I send you a free biscuit. It comes in a little plastic container with a disclaimer, don't eat it, and it's sealed and all sorts of other stuff. So it's really kind of cute. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll enjoy some of the other Cold War podcasts I'm going to put up here on YouTube. So, as always, don't forget to come by the website, summahistorica.com or historyaccordingtobob.com, and ask a question, leave a comment, check out the CDs, and thank you very much.